YouTube Ozick Owen, the Goat House is back after day 2 of the NFL Combine here with winners and losers. Did the same thing for day 1. We'll do the same thing for day 3 and 4. Then we'll have a big updated mock draft after that. Then we get on to our free agency predictions and grades. So excited about it. Help us get to 100K. Much appreciated. We're almost there. I think we'll get there by free agency. Check us out on Twitter. Live updates, especially during the Combine here. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. So starting with a couple corners, then we'll go safeties, tight ends, and we'll talk about some other guys. Quite a long list of guys at the end here, but Quinyon Mitchell keeps moving, keeps helping himself, keeps on moving up here. Going in the Senior Bowl, he was starting to get some buzz, and he lit up the Senior Bowl. Was locked in as a first-round pick. Was kind of known as possibly the cornerback too. I think he definitely locked himself in as cornerback too. There's a shot he is the first cornerback taken. I'm definitely thinking it's still Terrion Arnold, but Mitchell. So not too much of movement. It looks like top 20 to top 15, but it's actually a lot if we're talking about in the first round, of the draft. I don't really see him getting by that Colts pick. There's teams up at the top that could surprise and take him. I even look at the Saints. Not really counting on the Saints taking corner because they have they have good solid corners, but they love them some corners, and it just kind of feels like a Saints type corner. So I would even look up as high as that pick as well. But yeah, he's got a pretty good frame to him. Obviously, good build. I thought even looking at that picture at Toledo, he looked bigger, like a lot stronger, more in shape. Not that he wasn't in shape there, but at the combine. So that's good to see. Doesn't mean everything, and then goes and runs a 4.33 40, which I knew he would test well. But yeah, 4.33 40 and a 38-inch vertical. I mean, those are absolutely freaky numbers on top of him having good tape, on top of him being a playmaker, on top of him having a great Senior Bowl. So this guy's locking himself in as a top 2 corner, and before the Senior Bowl, he was getting buzzed, but it really wasn't even close to being locked in as a top 2 corner. So good to see. One of the massive winners, could argue maybe the biggest winner of day 2, Max Melton, cornerback from Rutgers, a guy I want to watch more of for sure. Running a blazing 4.39 40, and then the broad jump is a freaky number at 11.4, and the vertical is a freaky number at 40.5 inches. And he looked really smooth, in the drills, and a lot of just rave reports about him. Obviously was as a known defender, but kind of was being talked about in that round 3, round 4 range. I think we could see him being, hearing his name called in round 2. We heard DJ say I think he said top 40, top 50 pick, I think, and that's high praise right there. But Rutgers, they had their years of struggle in the Big Ten, but their defense was actually pretty solid last year. And it starts with a guy like this, an athletic freak at the cornerback position, and has the play to go along with it. And the size is there too, the length is there. He's not the the longest guy and the tallest guy in the world, but it's plenty good enough. Not too small. I think good length for that size as well. So that's a guy that I really want to dive into more. That's what the combine's all about here. And he's a guy that can hear his name called on day 2. Definitely on day 2. I definitely think round 2. I was about to say. So massive day for him. Some safeties. Javon Bullard's a big one for me. It's a big one because I really enjoyed his tape as it was. Safeties, I probably watched less than some of the other guys, so I'm still trying to sort out my rankings. But he was a guy that I really liked his tape. And there's a mixture. Everyone's different for safeties. Some people have Quinyon, some people have Newbin, at the top. Do you see much else at number 1 other than that? Maybe there's probably some guys here and there. But Bullard's kind of in that conversation at top 3, top 5. Loved his tape. I've probably been raving about his tape a little bit more than other people, but the knock on him was his long speed. And he went out there and ran a 4.47 40. The 10-yard split time is great as well. We didn't see him jump. I thought he looked phenomenal in the drills as well. Super explosive. So he went out there. And then people were kind of knocking him, he doesn't really have that long speed, kind of relies on instincts, which are really good, which is fantastic. So I wasn't knocking his speed as much as those people, but even this is faster than I expected, and he just looked, more athletic, and sometimes these guys are kids, they're getting stronger, faster, day by day, they're trying, and it's possible. We see guys do that, just a year or two getting in the NFL too. So I think, like Mitchell, I thought he looked a little bit more in shape, was already in shape. I think Bullard kind of the same thing. But for him to go out there and run that 4.47, we don't want to base a lot of, everything off 40 times, but this was one, depending on the player, this was one where he has the instincts. He has the tape. He played top-tier football on a top-tier team, a top-tier defense that is pumping out legit NFL prospects like crazy. He just needed to show that he had speed. What I like about him is you can move him around a bit as well. Split safety looks really instinctive in that category. You put him in the slot. Georgia had a couple guys that can play in the slot, but he looked really good there, really good at reading the quarterback, driving, getting downhill, making a big play, he's not afraid to hit either. I like Bullard a lot. I like his tape. He has the athleticism now to go along with it. I think he was kind of being talked about as the top 5, top 3 for some people. I put him in the top 2. Right now, at today, it feels like there could be other guys, but it feels like Bullard versus Newman for me for the top spot. But a lot of teams could just rank him as a slot corner type guy. But I like his work as a split field safety. I do like that as well. But you see some of the best safeties in football, today, they're not just one thing. So I love that. I love instinctive playmakers as well, and he is one of them. Another safety, Cole Bishop from Utah, who had a really solid season, especially early in the year. He kind of stood out right off the bat. It's a guy that's kind of lined up in different spots as well, from a safety standpoint, but really like his play in the box, like right around the line of scrimmage. I did not expect him to be this athletic, to be honest, but that's great. And you do see him kind of fly around, get downhill, get in the backfield, just fly around the football field, Good size, 262, 206, and his play around the box and his instincts around the box, maybe he gives you like a very poor man's, Harrison Smith vibes. I know that's probably, if we said Harrison Smith vibes without the poor man's, it's probably high praise. He's one of the better safeties of the last how many years. But yeah, kind of could give you those types of vibes. And for him to go out there and run 4.45, 10.4 broad, 39-inch vertical, I didn't expect him to be unathletic or anything like that, but way freakier than I thought. So that's great for him. I thought he had a really good year. So round 4, maybe a top 75 pick now, which is great. Yeah, obviously great for Bishop. So he stood out to me. And another one from Texas Tech, Dadrion Taylor Demerson, who was really solid this year. Probably not talked about enough when it comes to safeties. I think he has an opportunity to be a top 3 safety taken. I'm not saying he is going to be a top 3 safety taken, but he hasn't really been talked about that at all. I think people realize he was a good ball player this year, but a lot of production, getting tackles, getting his hands on the ball. You see him playing free safety. You see him playing him in the slot. So similar to Bullard, like we see him move around a bit, see him be a playmaker in the back end, read the quarterback, but playing in the slot too. Because of his size and his play style, maybe a team puts him in the slot, but he's a pretty good free safety. I would like him in his zone defense. Texas Tech's getting better on defense. They were such a bad defense for so long. It was brutal. Like there was FCS teams, like several FCS teams that were just far better defensively than Texas Tech. But now they're finally, last few years, maybe more than that, they're starting to pump out some pretty decent defensive players and athletic. Apparently, they were flying around. They have been flying around at the combine. But 4.41, 1.52, 10-yard split is a ridiculous time as well. Vert is 38. Athletic freak. He had the crazy production. He has that versatility at the safety position, more than the safety position, that you look for in today's NFL. I think a team could put him at free safety. Split safety would be ideal. And I think they can put him in the slot. And maybe more teams like him in the slot. We'll see. But wasn't being talked about enough before. Round 4, I think he could be a top 3 safety. Top 4, we'll say top 4 safety taken. Because his good play, versatility, and then the athletic testing numbers to go along with it. So very much impressed, from some of these safeties like him. We'll talk about the other Texas Tech safety in a second here. But some tight ends, Tip Ryman, TIP. He had a really good outing. He did drop a couple balls towards the end. I think he ended the day with a catch. They wanted to end with him. So he was kind of the star of the show for the tight ends, but did drop a couple balls at the end. But he looked really smooth in the drills, running, especially the early portion of drills. A lot of these tight end, the tight ends these days are getting lighter and lighter. They're getting more athletic. And then you got right here a 6'5", 271 pounder, and he runs a 4.64 40. That is barely. I mean, he's running faster than guys that are weighing 250. And this guy was a phenomenal blocker for Illinois, a really good run blocker. Some production as a pass catcher, but there wasn't enough there. And he's a bigger body, like an old school tight end. Could he be productive in the passing game? Is he athletic enough? And he showed that he's pretty damn athletic for a 271 pounder. And again, looked pretty good in the drills. There was a couple drops there at the end, but figured somebody was going to definitely draft him, but probably late just for his blocking. But now you see, now you're going we knew we were going to get a quality blocker here. That'll definitely help us. But now we got a guy. Hey, we got a guy. We got a guy that we want to work with. 6'5", 271, and he can move. We got some upside here, more than just a blocker. So possibly somebody taking him a lot earlier than that. So he really stood out. And then the other tight end, the obvious one, Theo Johnson, who was one of the bigger names coming into the day, likely a top 3 tight end. He's not going to be one. We know that Brock Bowers, who did not work out. But 6'6", 259, big body guy and pretty damn athletic. Bigger for today's, standards for tight ends. But and we knew this was going to happen. We knew he was going to be athletic for his size and just in general. 4.57 40, and then a 10.5, everything across the board. 10.5 broad, freaky. Vertical is super freaky, 39.5 for a tight end that weighs 259, 6'6". It's getting off the ground for a big guy. So probably, and he was well known, like round 3 was possible before, but man, there's a pretty big gap with the tight ends, after 1, after 2, and then 3, and then after 3. So there could have been a pretty big gap in one, maybe not one going in a second, and then, I guess it was possible Theo Johnson could have went in the third before, but I think he's locked himself in the third, probably early third. His teammate from last year the Jags ended up taking him earlier than expected. So I think, he could go early, he can go late second. It's a possibility. So, in the RAS score, which historically good NFL players, they have a pretty good RAS score. Doesn't mean everything, but it's interesting. He had a perfect 10 in the RAS. So with his numbers and his size, it kind of in the position, it kind of all combines, pumps out a number. It's to some people it probably sounds ridiculous, but if you look back at in today, the best NFL players typically pretty good in that category. He had a perfect score. So that's something. On a long list of guys I want to talk about here, still some corners. Terrion Arnold, how much did he help his stock? He was already cornerback 1. He should be locked in at cornerback 1. The only one that has a shot to go ahead of him in terms of corners is Quinyon Mitchell, who we talked about. But I feel a little more firm about Arnold being the top guy, maybe going earlier than expected, being a top 10 guy. 40 time wasn't blazing. On all the corners, who looked the most smooth, who looked the most pro ready, who looked the best in the drills, the on-field drills, I don't even think it's a debate. It was Terrion Arnold, not a surprise, the best corner in the class, a guy that has the technique, technically sound, very sticky in coverage. He showed out. And you hear the guy talk. He's a very likable guy, and I've actually heard things, how he's interviewed with teams, rave reports, big-time reports. Coaches, teams like him, like as a person. They really like his character. Was working as a roofer. That's hard work. He said that helped him. So I think he won in terms of that, as well as the on-field drills. So he's kind of, how much did his stock actually go up because he didn't have a lot of room to grow there, but he kind of locked himself in, kind of like a firm top-tier guy, defensive guy in his class. Mike Sanders, still from Michigan, well-known corner, was on that big-time national championship team. Another guy that was extremely, extremely smooth in the drills, and he was very athletic, jumping and running. So it looks like a big winner in that comp. He did come in. We knew he was a little smaller, undersized. He did come in a little more undersized than we thought he would be. I think he's going to be a really solid slot corner. I know people thought that about DJ Turner as well. He felt more comfortable on him on the outside, but Sanders probably ends up being a really solid slot corner. He had a really solid day. Daquan Hardy, speaking of slot corners, there's another one. It's a pretty solid one. Doesn't really get a lot of buzz, before the combine. The slot corners that get a lot of buzz are the guys that they play it outside too. Like, which are they? They could be both. Which one? There's a talking point. Hardy pretty locked in as a slot corner, but a freaky day for him. Super athletic. Then Andrew Phillips, I liked his tape as well. Guy that's not afraid to come up and hit. From Kentucky. Kentucky's got some ball players on defense. Actually, we saw their linebacker yesterday made the list. Trevin Wallace. Phillips was very athletic, testing. Looks pretty solid in the drills as well, but it's a guy I like there. Some Kentucky guys. Jalen Simpson from Auburn. Yeah, he's definitely undersized, for a safety, weighing in, definitely, light. Safeties are usually a little more built. So he came in, measured in, weighed in. He was definitely lighter than you want him to be. So right away it's like, but then he's an absolute freak. You see it from the 40, the explosion drills. You see him just working out in the field. He ends the day for the safeties, doing I think he did a backflip. He did some cartwheels and a backflip, or round-offs, whatever. I don't know the terms. I already botched it, but not a big deal. A guy does a backflip doesn't mean he's going higher in the draft, but it just goes to the point that he's a freak athlete. So another guy I want to watch more of for sure. A little undersized. And then Texas Tech safety, we already talked about the other one, but Tyler Owens had the second best broad jump in the history of the NFL Combine. And then when Byron Jones broke the record, which was 12.3, Owens did 12.2. 12.3 at the time, that was a world record for Byron Jones. So it is, freaky is not the right word. I don't know. It's unheard of. It's ridiculous. He jumped extremely high in the vertical as well. So this guy is different. He is built different. Usually those drills show like these guys are explosive. It's not by mistake. They are explosive. You want explosive players on your football team. Unfortunately, he gets hurt while running the 40. I'm pretty certain it would have been a pretty good time. So the guy we want to watch more of because it is just unnatural, freaky ability. So it helps him. Getting hurt doesn't help, but I think it helps him. A couple tight ends that won. Devin Culp from Washington. Washington used 3 receivers at once because they got stud receivers. They threw the ball out wide a lot, and they used their running back Dylan Johnson a bit as well. So we didn't see a whole bunch of tight end I guess their playbook. We didn't see a ton of it, so Culp was a little bit lacking the production column, but he ran in the 4.4s. He is lighter though. He's in the 2.30s. So he's kind of like a tweener as the receiver, tight end. He's with the tight ends. But 4.4s is receiver speed, obviously. So, being that athletic, and maybe it's like, all right, if we get him in the right system, we're going to use him more than Washington did. Maybe he's got some upside. So interesting. Tanner McLaughlin, really good year for Arizona. Arizona was a sneaky good team. Like the way they ended up, they were good. They're much better in their record. And he was a sneaky weapon. Come on, a sneaky weapon from that sneaky team. And he's very athletic. He showed that at the Combine as well. Ben Sinnott, very explosive. Those the vertical, the broad jump, and then fast enough in the 40, but the vertical and the broad jump, ridiculous numbers. And I thought he was one of the more smooth guys in the drills as well. So impressive. Nate Wiggins has the fastest 40 of the Combine so far 4.28, and he kind of blew out his groin during it. That sounds funny. Blew out his groin. But he did. He popped something in there. And while running a 4.28, it was 4.29 unofficial, ended up being 4.28 official. And he was disappointed. He wanted a 4.20. And if he didn't do that to his groin, what would he have run? I don't know if he would have got that record. Maybe. He's flying. But if you do that alone, that's huge. Like if you're already a good productive corner, like he's got first round talk, and you run that 40, it's huge. So maybe why not stock up? Well, he did weigh in the 170s. It's very, very light. Emmanuel Forbes was lighter last year. He went in the first round, struggled his rookie year. But he was extremely light. Some teams aren't going to love that. Some teams wouldn't have taken Forbes in the first round. They may have not taken him in the second round last year, believe it or not. Just some teams are like that. Some coaches, some scouts, some GMs. But so it kind of started off the day as I don't want to say a loser, because I'm a believer that you're not too small at a ball. Obviously, he's a ball player, a playmaker. And he could fly, and its speed is a big part of today's game. But at the end of the day, undersized, started off the day not so great, not the end of the world for me, but then runs that blazing 40, but then he gets injured during it. Now, did he get injured because he's small? No, definitely not. But, what's the problem with being a little smaller? You worry about the durability, and then for him to get hurt, doing a I don't want to say simple 40. I mean, these guys are running at insane speeds, but just doing a first 40 of the day, it's not a good look for some guys up there. So he had like the big wow, the fastest guy at the combine, and the fact that he messed up his groin while running and he ran a 4.28 is just insane. So big winner there, but a little lighter, and the durability thing popped up. Not that durability was a major concern before, but I do want to watch more of Nate Wiggins because I know I see it on tape. He's a super athlete. I know he can read the quarterback. I know he can jump routes. I know he can get underneath. I know he can make the play on the ball. Sometimes he kind of just gives me free safety vibes. Like, not that I want to put him at free safety, but the way he just attacks underneath, I want to see him do other corner things, a little bit better. But he does have the upside in that category. And then some stock downs. Kalen King, I don't know if anybody's stock has fallen more during this process, or I guess during the year too, because last year, 2022 tape, I love this 2022 tape. And, that's still in there. We got to still use that. And I thought as good as Joey Porter Jr., maybe more upside since he was going back to school. And then he didn't really struggle this year, but it was definitely underwhelming, especially with the lack of – there's not too many teams in the Big Ten that are just airing it out completely. But he definitely didn't struggle. It was pretty underwhelming. And then the Senior Bowl, he was extremely underwhelming, one-on-ones and drills, and then – underwhelming at the combine. He just did not really look the part, and in running in the 4.6s is not ideal. And 4.6s to us, like 4.6s is still moving, but for corners, specifically for corners, if you go back in NFL history, like there are very, 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 very limited amount of corners that ran like 4.58 or lower, worse than 4.58, around that range of in the 4.6s. Very limited. Some of them would look good at first, and you go, see, it didn't really matter. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, receivers figured them out. Like, when I go against this guy, we're just going to use all my speed. We're not going to try to wiggle. We're not going to try to shake him off. We're just going to use straight speed. So that's not ideal. So his stock just continues to fall. Like, once known as a first-round pick, then a second-round pick, then a third-round pick, and we're falling even further down than that for sure right now. Then Shal Smith-Wade looked really good at the Senior Bowl. Got a couple interceptions at the Senior Bowl, and then he was on the slower side as well. Looked really stiff to me in the drills. I see him dropping the ball as well, and that was kind of a thing. Like, how did where he was in the field? How did he not have more ball production at Washington State? And then the Senior Bowl, he had the ball production. It's like, okay, maybe he's turning to corner, and it didn't really look great out there. But another guy that was kind of on the slower side. And then Cameron Kitchens, who if you watch his tape, he was faster. He's faster than what he is out the combine. So which one would you rather have? You would want both, but would you rather have a guy that looks faster on tape or on the combine? You'd rather have the tape, 'cause that's actual football. So maybe not the end of the world, but running in the low 4.6s is not ideal for a free safety that has a lot of single high. Like, you like him as a single high, but the range shows off. It shows off on tape, so it's a little confusing. And maybe he's a little on the shorter side, so you don't love that when he's measuring in. Some other guys are a little more appealing when measuring in with their length and everything. And he was kind of lacking in terms of the other drills as well, the explosion drills. I think, if I'm not mistaken, his vert was okay, but I was a little disappointed with the broad, I believe. So these are things like, it's not really matching up on tape. And most of the time you go, all right, like the tape's more important. It is. But other safeties looking really, really good while he's been the Miami safeties looked a little on the slower side, but Kitchens being that free safety, like that single high, like playmaker, rangy playmaker, you want him to be more athletic there. So that was a little tough. Maybe some other safeties passing him up, and it felt like Kitchens over the last month, his stock was falling already. It felt like a little bit, maybe a little undersized, because usually like those guys that are known, like their forte is playmaking, rangy, free safety, like single high free. Like usually they're 6 foot, at least two. And we know they're freaky athletes, so they're gonna jump, they're gonna run. So I think people kind of knew that maybe he wasn't on board with the prototype of a free safety, so he started to fall. A little more buzz to guys like Tyler Nubin, which Tyler Nubin I thought looked really smooth with the on-field drills. My question with him, like instincts and just being a smart player, and getting better step by step, that wasn't a doubt. Like, that's great. That's like an A+. And in terms of Tyler Nubin, like the question was play speed, the speed, and he didn't run the 40, and usually that's because I might run a little on the slower side. But if he would have went out there and ran low 4.6s, I think that would have been great. And I think he could have done that the way he was moving in the drills. I think that could have been great. Remember, Kyle Hamilton didn't run that fast, but so maybe it's not the end of the world that Kinch just ran fast. But again, Kyle Hamilton had elite play, versatility like he was. Cameron Kinchin's kind of like a one thing. Hamilton did a bunch of things, and he's super lengthy on top of it, so can't really compare the two there. But yeah, right now it's kind of feeling like Newbin versus Bullard, but a couple of Texas Tech safeties look pretty good. Bullock from USC got to clean up on the tackling, but he's a rangy playmaker, pretty damn athletic, definitely on the thinner side. But yeah, so I think watching the combine for the safeties was pretty big because they're all so close in grade, and there's no real big time first round. Honestly, Bullard's got some. There's some parts to his game that not really too far off, or maybe late first there, but and it's tough with the Georgia guys though because the whole defense is ridiculous. So who's making the most impact? So sometimes it's a little tough, but I do like Bullard a lot. I thought he was a massive winner, today. So there you have it for day 2. We have the video up for day 1. We're gonna have tomorrow's the biggest day, day 3. Saturday, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, going to be a long day. We'll have you covered live on Twitter. We'll have the video after. And then Sunday's the last day. And then Monday, we'll have our big updated mock draft, then free agency. Love free agency. Can't wait. And then the draft. So excited. Join us. Check out our sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid IV, code GOAT. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.